Hey everybody, this is John and welcome to the free video. We've got a tale of two markets right now. We've got some individual stocks that are doing well on their near new highs. You have indexes like IWM and transports where you've got all the moving averages cross to the downside, and every time they come up to that 21, they keep just getting pounded. And this is something where, I know a lot of eyes right now are like on tech because the tech sector is doing real good. Frankly, because, Apple's doing real good. It's like, oh my gosh, the bottom's in. But, the key with understanding kind of market direction is you got to take into account a little bit bigger picture. And so if we go through here and we look at, say, Microsoft, it's like, okay, well, there's a stock that's doing not pretty good. And then if you look at Goldman Sachs, it's like, wow, that stock is really looking fairly ugly here. Or we could look at Intel and say, boy, that stock isn't really getting anything going here. But MasterCard looks great. And so what you'll notice is that with all of these stocks, there's different market phases that kind of happen. Okay, so some are undergoing accumulation, some are undergoing distribution, some are experiencing acceleration to the upside, while others are just pure on declining. Okay, and then beyond, meat is a good example of this. So you had periods where it was kind of trading sideways under accumulation, then you had acceleration, and now you've got a full-on declining market. And so when you've got a stock like Beyond Meat, that those four cycles will happen fairly quickly, and then like in a stock market like the S&Ps, they could last mostly months or a couple of quarters before they change it all. All right, so one question around that is kind of like, what's the what is that cycle that we want to look for? All right, so the main thing here is very, very simple. That an individual stock or index is always undergoing one of four phases, okay? And then at some point there's a transition. And so first of all, you want to know what phase we're in. Are we in accumulation, okay? Or are we in an advancing market? Or are we in distribution mode? Or are we in a declining market, okay? Because first of all, if you're doing strategies that work in an advancing market, like, oh, I'm going to buy some out of the money calls, but you're doing it in an accumulation phase or a distribution phase, because both look like, wow, this thing could go higher, you're just going to get killed. It's not going to work. It's got to be in an advancing market. And then, of course, you want to be able to recognize a declining market so that you're not buying the dip. You actually should be aggressively shorting. And so, the question is, well, and there's two things. One, you want to know what phase you're in right now, but then you got to if you can recognize the turns, that's where you can make the most money. All right. So I was talking about Beyond Meat, right? And so this is how I played Beyond Meat using this knowledge. So when it was in an accumulation phase, great. What I did was accumulation trades, all right? So in an accumulation phase, you do specific trades that are more geared for income, all right? So knock those out. But then what happened is then from there, we went into acceleration, okay? And in an acceleration trade, I am actually going to take, at the beginning of acceleration is the only time I like to buy out of the money calls, and that was great because these were up 332% in just a couple of days. And then there's the in-between, like if it's going to go accumulation into potential acceleration, great. Then there's different trades that I do during that. But the key is you got to know the signs of, okay, now it's transitioning from accumulation into potential acceleration, right? So this is a real simplified version of how to do that. And these are some tools I like to use. So first of all, again, this was telling me it's like, okay, this is under accumulation. All right, so that's when you do that. But then you'll get acceleration, and you want to be able to spot the turns, okay? But then you've got to be able to recognize distribution, and then of course full on declining, right? And so this is one of the tools that I use for that. We've got some stuff up here that I look at to kind of get a sense of, what's the VWAP doing and all that kind of stuff. And then this is something that's important because this will tell you what the other key markets are doing. It's like, oh gosh, biotech is in declining mode, and XLY is in acceleration mode, but the New York Stock Exchange is in distribution mode, right? And so it's good to know at a glance what everything is doing there. All right, so I'm going to be doing a class on all of this. The markets are changing, and this is the way to adapt to those markets as quickly as possible. All right, so I'll be doing on Saturday, August 31st, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday, a deep dive on all 4 market phases, exactly how to identify them, and then 2, the best setups for each market phase. Now, I usually will focus on option strategies, but I focus on the underlying. So if you just trade stock or if you just trade futures, that's fine. But most I'll be looking at like, okay, if you're looking at acceleration at this point, great, we can, we're going to do this strategy. But if it's, switching over into this, we're going to switch and do this strategy, and this is exactly how you can tell. All right. So that'll be the 31st, and then I'm going to do 2 sets of live trading, the 4th and 5th, and then I'm going to wait a couple of weeks and do the 19th and 20th. And the reason to split them up like that is to hopefully get 2 completely different market conditions. Okay, so if you're seeing this, there are some early bird pricing right now. You can get $200 off the Elite package. The day of the class, it's going to go up to $14.97, and I'll show you what these, et cetera, and I'll show you what these are. So that chart I showed you with all the stuff on it, so I'll give you that. So just the basic workshop's $497. This is a no-brainer. You'll get the strategy in terms of like, look, here's how you identify all 4 market phases, and I'll give you my Thinkorswim workspace that has all the tools on it that I use. Now there's some additional other tools that I use too that you can look, but I'm going to give you the core ones right there, just like the one I just showed you. If you're newer to options, there'll be an Options 101 course that you can look at. And then I'm also going to do a quick start class that just kind of gives, if you're new to Simpler, it's like, hey, these are some of the basic things that we do. And then we'll dive right into the strategy. The premium package here includes all that, okay, plus I'm going to do a about an hour and a half on the macro deep dive of the next year. Okay, basically what this means is we have a world that's going to go into negative interest rates, and again, I have access, just from being in this industry so long, I have access to stuff that most retail people can't get, and I can just kind of lay out and say, look, this is what the big boys are looking at, these are the bets that they're making. This is where you want to be careful, because if you're not aware, you're going to get killed, and this is where you can make a killing. So I'll be talking about that, and then we're going to have 2 live trading days. And then the Elite package is basically all this, plus those additional 2 live trading days. All right, so this is going to be a lot of fun. This is one of those things where my trading changed once I learned to recognize which of the 4 phases the market was in, and more importantly, recognize the changes so I could adapt very, very quickly. So to give you an idea of this, you don't have to just make money when the markets go up. My best trading day of the year so far was right here when the spiders got crushed. Okay, and on this you can see this is from my continued equity net liquidating value of my account. We're sitting here at this point about 250,000, and then it popped up to 320,000, pulled back, popped up to 360, and then this was a really good day. This was actually a really solid trading day there. You can see it's like I was puts on spiders, and I was short the S&Ps and call credit spreads on SPX and long bonds, and that was fantastic. And then here, of course, I had to get out of my short, so my equity pulled back. But then was able to catch some more, and then we came back, and then I kind of reversed and went long on some stuff, and so I'm sitting here at new equity highs for the year as of this day, and so right at 403,000 there. So that's just what I mean. And again, it's I might be throwing on 10 futures contracts here, but you could still, if you've got a small account, you could do 1 spider put, right, and still participate. So that's the idea, is that you know how to do this. All right, so that's what we got. Again, real quick, simplertrading.com/secret. You'll come up with this page, and then you'll be good to go. All right, you guys have a good one. Looking forward to working with you on this, and we'll see you at the next update.